Starting in a seated position, come down onto your back. Elbows at 90 degrees, the backs of your hands on the ground. Knees at 90 degrees with your knees and feet together. Coming down to one side of your body and over to the other side of your body, repeating this movement. From side to side. Very similar movement to what you have when you try to keep your chest facing down the hill in moguls or short turns. In a seated position, hands behind you, one leg straight, the other knee at around 90 degrees, toes and knee up to the sky. Bring in the bent knee down from your ball and socket joint in your hip and back up while keeping the other leg still. Again, trying to isolate that ball and socket joint in your hip, a joint we use a lot when skiing. When coaches say, or instructors say, roll onto your edge from your ankle and knee, a lot of that movement and what they mean is coming from your ball and socket joint in your hip. And it's just like this movement here as we bring our knee over and down. A very similar movement to what we use to angulate the ski. If you want to challenge yourself, you can bring your chest a little closer to your knee, back a little bit straighter. Keeping the movement consistent. As low as you can go with that knee. One leg straight, the other knee at 90 degrees, toes and knees pointing up to the sky, bringing that knee down, slow and controlled, and back up, while keeping the other leg straight and still. You can visualize that ball and socket joint working in your hip with this movement. Go as low as you feel comfortable. The more you practice this exercise, the lower you should be able to go. If this feels easy, you can bring your chest a little closer to your knees, back a little straighter. Check in with your breathing. It should be consistent on the inhale, consistent on the exhale. No holding your breath to give that muscle room to move and increase its range of movement. In a seated position, feet together, into a butterfly stretch, hands behind you, trying to straighten your back as you push your chest forward, keeping your knees low. Relax into a deep breath here. as we hold this stretch. See if you can press your knees any lower down to the mat. If you feel you want to challenge yourself, you can join me by grabbing your feet, putting your chest low, pressing with your elbows, your knees down. Stepping into a deep lunge, resting the top of your back foot on the floor, coming up, tilting your pelvis forward, feeling a stretch through your hip flexor here. And with your left hand and your left leg behind you, reach up and over so we can feel a stretch through our obliques into the hip flexors. Continue to check in with the stretch. Can you bend that front knee a little bit more, reach a little bit further over while maintaining consistent inhale and exhales. Remember to check in and square those hips, tilt your pelvis forward. Into a deep lunge. Right knee behind you, tilting your pelvis forward, bringing your right hand up and over to feel stretch from your obliques to your hip flexors. Try to drive that back knee into the ground to feel a good stretch. Very important to stretch your hip flexors. After skiing, when you're skiing, the hip flexor is always closed. Your hips are always at a position where the hip flexor is shortened. And this is so important to help stretch that area that gets worked so much on the slopes. See if you can reach a little bit further over or bend this front knee a little bit more. With a slight bend in your knees, bring your chest down, hands on your thighs, keeping your back as straight as you can until you feel a pull and a stretch in your hamstrings. Holding here with a straight back. Crossing your arms, you can release, let your head hang low, pushing your elbows to the ground, feeling a pull and a stretch in your hamstrings. With your next exhale, see if you can go a little bit deeper and a little lower with your head.